Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream. Today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about the markets, about the unemployment rates in the United States and how this affects the interest rates potentially. We're going to be talking about the bear market FUD that people are spreading on Twitter and on the internet. And we're going to see whether that is true or do they have something to stand on. Of course, this is not financial advice. Nothing I say is financial advice. This is strictly my opinion on the markets, and you should not follow it. You should do your own research. Now, in front of me, I have the Bitcoin weekly chart, and we had a very, very obvious cup and handle pattern here. We broke out, and now what seems to be happening is we're coming back for a retest of support over here. We're coming back to retest the previous resistance that we had initially. And from a technical perspective, this is a good thing, nothing bad about it. However, people are saying this is a bear market, and I'm getting some comments under my videos from people saying this is a bear market because supposedly all of the support levels were lost. So I'm not sure which support levels they're referring to, but let's zoom in and see what support levels do we actually have here that could hold us. So starting off with the weekly 20 EMA, we did lose this level, and this doesn't necessarily mean it's bear market. This simply means we are in a correction phase. What I would consider a massive red flag is if we were to lose the 55 EMA, which is the red moving average over here. That would be a massive red signal. And even if we wick below it slightly, that's not going to be too much of a problem. If we go back to 2021, that May correction, this is exactly what happened. So if you take a look at this correction, we went down approximately 54%. The current correction is approximately 27.8%. So this is not even, this is barely half of what we saw back in 2021 before the bull market continued. So arguably on-chain metrics show us that the bull market for Bitcoin ended in April. You could argue that we barely broke the all-time high in November, but still Bitcoin did rally. You could have made some money. And then altcoins continued their bull market into the end of 2021. Some of them did even peak throughout this correction here, like Cardano peaked in August 2021. So going based on this correction alone, saying it's a bear market is not, I don't think that's a good argument personally. So I wouldn't say it's a bear market yet. Now, if we have entered the bear market, then we're not going to know about it until, a few weeks after we start dropping below the 55 EMA, and then we have the bearish cross on the weekly. Then it's going to be bear market territory like it was back here in December, November 2021, when we finally dropped below the 55 EMA. And that was our signal. And then you had the bearish cross in April 2022. That was your confirmation of the downtrend, essentially. So these are some of the indicators you want to be looking at. And then on top of that, if we apply the 4-year cycle rules, then it usually takes about 16 to 17 months for the price to peak after the halving. So I'm going to try to pull out that tweet for you where it covers that. But essentially, we're looking at September to November as the Bitcoin top at the moment. Now, previously, I was saying that I'm expecting everything to play out in the first half of 2025, and arguably we still have some time for that to happen. However, we haven't seen that explosion, that euphoric explosion of the price action. We haven't seen a massive altcoin rally like we have seen in the previous cycles. Marius Derdas. So is the bull over? I don't think so. We haven't seen the kind of corrections that would indicate that the bull market is over. It's a nasty correction for altcoins. And if you go back to 2021, when Bitcoin went down 54%, some altcoins dropped a lot more than that, unfortunately. So this is a good time to be buying altcoins. This is a good time to be dollar cost averaging, in my opinion. And of course, don't get too overexposed to crypto. Don't don't sell your house, right, and go all into Ethereum. Don't do that. But if you have some money on the sideline that you're willing to invest, then these are definitely the prices to be buying in. We're going to go through some altcoins that I think are sitting at very good buying prices, because if you were buying them at December 2024 peaks, but you're not willing to buy at these discounted prices, then you're kind of doing something wrong, in my opinion. But we're not going to judge here. If we go to the oscillators here, let's take a look at the weekly stochastic. So we've entered the oversold. The last time we were down there was back in September, August 2024. And that was historically our local bottom there before we moved up into that pump, concluding in December 2024. Now the weekly RSI here, if we go to the weekly chart, so we're targeting this level at 44.7 on the RSI. We retested that back in August 2023, then once again in September 2024. So this area is very important for us. We want to hold this as support. Potentially, we're going to see a bounce from there. So this is a good time to be dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. And you can see there's a lot of bounces from this range. Like if I draw a block here, you can see that there's a lot of bounces in this area, lots of confluence. So holding this range here would be great. If we can stay somewhere between 40 to 50 on the RSI for this consolidation would be great. And then what are we looking for afterwards? So let's zoom in on some of the targets. Now, our target from the cup and handle pattern was $125,000, and that still stands. And then I think very bullish case for us would be $150,000 as the bull market top. I think that would be a tremendous level to get out at. Hopefully, altcoins are going to be sitting at new all-time highs by the time we do that. But anything after 150,000 is going to be extremely dangerous, in my opinion. So I wouldn't want to hold my altcoins after that point. Okay, whatever profit you made, it's still more money than the rest of the 90% of the people in the market. So if it's a 2x, a 3x, a 4x, just take the money and get out. That's what I'm going to try to do. And that's what I'm going to be showing my patrons, right? All of my portfolios are available on Patreon, and all of my trade alerts are available on Patreon as well. So this is the situation that I'm looking at with Bitcoin. You can obviously target 111,000 here. We almost got there with this pump. We almost got to the 1.414. And then you can see we have this 5-wave structure here. So wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and now our wave 5. So as long as this wave, the wave 5 doesn't drop below the wave 3 high, we should be good for continuation. So this is just a corrective wave here. And I'm potentially looking at an ABC. So we had our A, B, and this is going to be our C. So this is just a mid bull market correction for us. And hopefully the 55 EMA will be a strong support. Once we lose the 55, then these comments about bear markets and so on would be logical, and actually they would have some ground to stand on. But that's just a quick breakdown, and obviously this is not financial advice, like I said. So let me... we're going to take a look at your altcoins, guys. If you have any, send them in right now. Before we do that, quickly want to go through a few things here. So probably one of the most bullish coins on Solana and Osana is posting the fact that they hit 4,000 plus deployments in a single day for the first time, more AI workloads running on decentralized GPUs, more compute power being put to use. So this is obviously decentralized GPU distributor on Solana, and I'm involved in the project. I do have these tokens. They've corrected quite a bit, but this is definitely a good time to be dollar cost averaging. The market cap is probably sitting somewhere around $80 million. This is not the correct circulating supply. So Nosana is a really good pick in my opinion. If you want to double check the circulating supply, and if you want to double check anything really, you want to go to cryptorank.io. And there you go. So $74 million market cap. And we have 83.4 million tokens in circulation. That's 83.4% of the total supply. Yeah, so February was a really bullish month in 2024 for Nosana, but not in 2025, unfortunately. So Nosana is something that I would keep an eye on and maybe get some exposure to this project. It still doesn't have the top exchange listings. We don't have Binance. We don't have Bybit. We don't even have KuCoin, I think. Yeah, we don't have KuCoin. We don't have BitGet. So there's still quite a few exchanges that we can get on. The other project that I would definitely start accumulating, if you still haven't, is going to be Injective. This thing corrected below $10. Massive correction here from 50 plus. This is definitely a place where you want to be stacking. It's listed on pretty much every single top exchange you can imagine. So it's not hard to get your hands on this project. And I definitely think this can get past $100 in this cycle without any issues. We almost have the entire total supply out in circulation. The vesting schedule has been completed, so you're not going to see a lot of token dilution with this project. So definitely make sure to take a look at Injective. The other one that goes without saying is Near Protocol, the #1 AI project in the space. And I'm fully expecting this to break past its all-time high. So if you're bullish on AI and you want to get into the safest projects, Near Protocol would be one of the safest, in my opinion. And this is just a little segue from this Nosana post that I wanted to share with you. So it just goes to show that the project is not dead. They're actually doing some work. Now, jumping to this post here from Titan of Crypto, this is an Ethereum chart. And as you can see, this is the weekly chart from Binance. And what they're showing here is an ascending diagonal support trend line. Every time we hit that trend line, we have a bounce to the upside. And this co-aligns or aligns with the stochastic on the weekly being in the oversold. So every time it is in the oversold, we see a bounce in the Ethereum price action. And again, there's lots of talks about Ethereum being the next layer 1 to pump. Solana has had its time. Now people are switching. Some people are selling their ETH or their Solana. They're selling their Solana to buy more Ethereum because they're expecting Ethereum to lead the next wave. And that does seem logical. The prices do support that. Ethereum against Bitcoin on the chart there, they're in a massive support level. We can take a look at that right now. So we're going to do ETH Bitcoin. And this is the weekly. Okay. So this is the area that we're going to be looking at. This is the demand zone here. Between 0.02 to 0.022 Satoshi. So 0.027 to 0.022. And last time we were down in this range, Ethereum went and essentially revived the altcoin season, and lots of altcoins followed through. And hopefully we're going to have the same thing play out here. And what happened with the Bitcoin dominance at the exact same time as Ethereum was pumping, the Bitcoin dominance, let me just get so that was, I think that was around December, right? But let's double check the time frames. I don't want to get it wrong. So this was around December 2020. So if we go to the Bitcoin dominance chart on the weekly, we go to December 2020. And this is going to be somewhere around here. There we go. So the Bitcoin dominance reaches its peak. We have a big wick to the upside. And from there, we start having a massive crash. So we went down approximately 46%. The Bitcoin dominance dropped 46%. And I'm not expecting a similar drop in terms of percentage, but I'm expecting a drop nonetheless. We had the same thing happen here in 2017 from February into December 2017. And we're probably going to have the same thing, although to a lesser extent in this cycle, because the rule of diminishing returns is intact. And this entire bull market, the altcoins have been growing while the Bitcoin dominance has been growing as well. So if the Bitcoin dominance drops, then the altcoins will have their time to shine, and then we'll see some massive moves from even some of the higher cap and mid cap projects. So this is what I'm looking at. And once this plays out, then we can be more certain that the bear market is very, very close. Thank you everyone for joining the live stream. Make sure to hit the like button and let me know if you have any altcoins you'd like me to take a look at. We're gonna jump into them very soon. So let me know, what are your thoughts on Ethereum? Do you hold any? Do you think it is going to start rallying relatively soon? If we go to the Ethereum chart, we're approaching $2,000 rapidly. And we're sitting at the 0.5 at the moment. And this is the fib that we set up from the June 2022 bottom to the November 2021 top. So Ethereum still hasn't started its wave 5. So this wave 5 for Ethereum will be the old season for the entire altcoin market cap. And I'm not expecting anything more than $7.8 to $8,000. That's a very bullish case for Ethereum. $8,000 would be a very bullish case for Ethereum, okay? If you hear someone saying $20,000 Ethereum, I mean, hopefully they're right. I'd love to see that, but I learned that you have to be more conservative and more realistic with these markets, because otherwise you're just going to get burned over and over again. So we're going to wait until this wave 4 concludes, and hopefully we're going to hold $2,000. If we start dropping, well, we have to see where this weekly candle is going to close, because if this candle, and this is actually very important, I just noticed it, if this candle closes below this top over here, that is our wave 1 top, so that would be $2,120. If this closes below this top, then the Elliott wave structure is invalidated. So this is another thing to keep in mind, because wave 4 can never go lower than the wave 1 top. So you have your wave 1 top here at 2,159, and then you have your wave 2, wave 3, and then the wave 4. If the wave 4 drops below the wave 1 top, the Elliott wave structure is invalidated officially. So what we need to do is we need to close the weekly candle above the $2,159 price. So above the wave 1. And it's Sunday today. So I don't think the candle still, this is still the old candle. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. If this does invalidate it, then we're looking at something entirely different here. The Elliott wave structure is invalidated. But let's see what you guys are saying. Good day, Hazik. Hello, Elorm. Very nice to have you. Tristan saying bull run dead, bro, has been for many weeks. Okay. I mean, if that's your opinion, then hopefully you secured your profits and hopefully you got out. But do you have any, like, what are the metrics or what are the criteria that you're using to determine that the bull market is over? Wait and see game. Great job. Nice analysis. Near protocol is indeed soon will hit a new all-time high. That's what I would be expecting. If not by May, if we don't see a massive pump by May, then probably closer to September, October, November. So always big dumps, then a small pump, then a huge dump, then tiny pump, all indicate a bear market. So are you referring to the Bitcoin price action? Because that's what I assume you're referring to. But if you go to the 2017 and even the 2021 bull markets, for example, this chart here, where actually, let me get a cleaner chart. This should be a cleaner chart. So for example, if we go back to, let's say, 2020, okay, we had a massive capitulation here for Bitcoin. Obviously, the COVID dump, 63% correction. Actually, if you take the top there, it's going to be a 72% correction. If you take the top from May 2019, it's a 70 plus correction. Then you have another correction here in August 2020. That's like 21%. You have another correction here in December 2020. That's 29%. Then you have another correction in April, from April into June 2021. That's 55%. And then within those corrections, within those bigger ones especially, you have these retracements, right? The price dumps, then you retrace a little bit, you continue dumping, you trace a little bit. That's what a correction is. That's what a downtrend is. So this was arguably a small downtrend that we had, and then we broke out. So just because you're printing, just because you're dumping, or just because you're seeing a downtrend doesn't necessarily mean it's a bear market, right? You could be in a corrective phase of the bull market. You could be in a black swan event. You could be in a ABC correction, which what we're in right now, in my opinion. So just because we're going up and down doesn't mean we're in a bear market. But again, we can all have our opinions. I'm just trying to base mine more on the charts and the on-chain data and what we've seen in the previous two cycles, because obviously we're not going to play out the exact same way we played out in the previous two cycles. However, history does rhyme. So and we've had so many people back in 2021 with the exact same narrative, with the exact same comments saying the bear market is here, the bull market is dead, etc., etc. And this happened throughout 2021, throughout the summer. Everyone is super bearish. There was no volume. Everyone was getting out of crypto. And then all of a sudden, we're back at new all-time highs in November. So Anas Qizil says, no volume, tariffs. ETH sucked the liquidity out of the market, and this liquidity will never convert to ETH or other altcoin, Bitcoin, USDT, bank accounts. So what do you mean by ETH sucked the liquidity out of the markets? Now, as for the tariffs are going to be a temporary thing, because if they do come into effect, then they will affect the US economy. That will cause inflation. And what Trump wants to do is he wants to cut the rate as soon as possible. If we have inflation, then he won't be able to enforce rate cuts. He won't be able to logically suggest that. So it's more of a negotiating tactic. And unfortunately, this is the effect that we're having on the markets. But this is in no way, shape, or form worse than the COVID dump that we had, because that was far more scary. That was something that the entire world was going through. And it was an unforeseen event. And we still recovered from that. And that correction was much bigger. So I don't think the tariffs are necessarily a signal of the bear market. Although in a few weeks, if we do end up breaking below the 55 EMA, as I've shown on the live stream earlier, then yeah, we would be in a bear market. I'm going to concede to that. And I'll say we have the confirmation of the bear market. At the moment, I can't really do that because I don't want to speak without all of the facts, pointing into that direction. Oh, okay. So you mean the Ethereum ETFs suck the liquidity of the markets. We'll see. If a lot of governments are going to be following the US, for example, and they're going to be adopting cryptocurrency reserves, a lot of them are probably going to have Ethereum on there. And that will cause some sort of a demand spike in companies getting Ethereum. And I think this could be a nice opportunity for Ethereum if the US adopts a reserve with Ethereum. And if the US starts buying Ethereum, that's also going to be a great thing. But I can see what you're saying. I can see that you're saying that the ETFs are sucking out the money from the markets, which is a good point. However, I think that most of the people investing into ETFs are not the people that would usually invest into the crypto markets on their own. So it's not like that money specifically is, coming out of the people that would be investing into the markets otherwise. However, I do know that some people are selling their assets and converting them to ETFs. We've seen that with Plan B. He sold his Bitcoin and moved them over to his ETFs, essentially, because he doesn't want to, he wants someone else to take care of his money, essentially. Let's hope for a catalyst that'll make the Fed cut rates rapidly, but this will cost us more pain. So talking about the Fed, if we go to the CME Fed Watch group, so this is the expectation for the interest rate cuts. 97% are expecting a no change in the March meeting. If we go to May, now this did change a bit more. Now we have 67% expecting a no change again in May. And then in June, we have a 57.8% expectation of a cut, of a 25 basis points cut. Now, why this changed, I think, and it's a weird change. If you go to the unemployment rates, we just got the update for the United States. The unemployment rates are sitting at 4.1% compared to 4% from January, and compared to, let's see. So February 2024, we're sitting at 3.9%. So unemployment is growing, and this could be another reason for the Fed to cut interest rates. So I'm not sure why the expectations changed in the opposite of what it really should be. Maybe you guys can explain it to me. However, this is a sign that the rates are probably going to be cut, and I still do think we're going to have 3 cuts this year. And Trump is going to force that. And Trump likes when the markets are going up. His whole thing would be to show everyone that, hey, look at the S&P 500, look at Bitcoin breaking new all-time highs and getting to 150 or 200K, whatever it is. So to him, those things could be considered historic. So he wants to be attached to them, and he wants to be the catalyst for those things. And I think that's on the long-term outlook. And this is in no shape or way or form me like endorsing Trump or supporting him. I don't like both administrations, so this is not a political defense of Trump by any means. Okay, so we looked at that, and one last bit of news here is 33 US states are racing to pass Bitcoin strategic reserves bills, and this is massive. A few years ago, something like this would be pretty much impossible to even imagine. To even suggest something like that, you'd be considered a crazy person. Now we have 33 states, and Texas had its approved, right? That the bill passed in the Senate, so that was great. And Texas is one of the largest economies in the world. So things are looking bullish, but they're looking bearish at the same time. So it's very weird how we're in this state in the markets at the moment. But this is what happens when you get into crypto, guys. Lots of logical things and lots of emotions, and hopefully this time will teach us, this market will teach us a lot of good lessons on how to take profits, on when to take profits, on when to be a little greedy, when to be less greedy. Do AI coins depend on NVIDIA doing well? Yes, I would say definitely. the fact that their most recent report was good, I think that helped the AI coins not dump as much, even though the dump has been big. I think if the report was bad, then the coins would have dumped even more, the AI sector. Hello, Ross. Yes, I am feeling better. Thank you very much for joining, and hopefully you're doing great. As much as one can be doing in these times. But let's take a look at, we had a few requests here. I have Injective Near and IMX, hope it recovers. Those are pretty solid picks. I would say you shouldn't be scared holding those coins. Okra, you mean Orca? I think you meant Orca and Cetus. So I do have both of these coins. So Orca is a DEX on Solana. And I do think this will have a pretty big move. Binance listed them, I think a month ago or so. So we were able to trade that pump on Patreon. So that was a really good trade, and we're listed on Coinbase. So we have a few good exchanges. Now the question is the volume and how we're going to essentially get this coin to new all-time high prices. If we take a look at the circulating supply, 53.2 million. Let's go to CryptoRank and compare that and see if that data is accurate. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. So 53. So 53 essentially percent of the total supply is out in circulation. Orca to really benefit from sold, etc. Small cap gem. But of course, don't overexpose yourself to these lower cap coins. You don't want to be buying huge amounts of them and then seeing them have a massive correction, right? But let's open up the price action chart for Orca. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so we lost this long-term support trend line, and that's not a very good thing. And it looks like we're coming back down to the support block between $1.48 to down to $1.22. That will be a really good area to dollar cost average. We bounced from there back in July last year. We had that rally, and then we also retested that as resistance back in January 2023. And on top of that, we can add another resistance trend line over there. So a few trend lines here to look at. The white trend line here that used to be our resistance, we might even back test that as support. So I would say anything around $1.50 down to $1.20 is a good area to be buying. Give me 1 second, guys. So this is definitely a good buying price for anyone who's looking to hold Orca for the long term. And I wish I had the ability to get into a lot of these coins at the moment. Unfortunately, I'm not able to due to some immigration reasons. I have to use my capital for some other stuff, but hopefully this will recover when the time is right. Let's take a look at the oscillator. So the RSI has recovered from the overbought. We're down at our September 2024 levels. So again, if you were buying this at like $5 and you're not buying it right now, then you're doing something wrong. So hopefully you're dollar cost averaging, and hopefully you're not selling your grandma's house to buy Orca, because that would be a very stupid thing to do. She's not going to be happy about that. What is happening to gaming alts? They seem to be bleeding to low bottoms. Well, I don't have a lot of gaming coins. I do have a few. But let's go to the gaming sector. I'm not sure what happened. Well, gaming in general has been very quiet recently. Multiverse down to 18.5. Yeah, Engine is... I wish I sold Engine at 60 cents. I should have sold that at 60 cents, but I didn't for some reason. Illuvium is down a lot. Look at these numbers. This is crazy. Yeah, I mean, people are expecting gaming to move up in 2025, but so far we haven't had a lot of bullish sentiment in 2025, so we'll see. But if you're bullish on some of these gaming coins, then sure, you can get into them. It's going to be pretty risky. I would focus on infrastructure projects like IMX. So definitely look into IMX. That's like the safest coin for you to get into, in my opinion, if you're looking to be exposed to gaming. But I don't have a lot of gaming coins, to be honest. I think I just have a few and that's it. I'm more exposed to AI and DeFi. Cliche, how are you doing, my friend? Good morning. Well, token, if you have time, let's take a look at Well. Okay, so this is taking a bit of a dip as well. Or let's take a look at Well. So this is the weekly chart. Let's add this ascending support trend line. So pretty much we're sitting at the support here. We've retested this multiple times since October 2023. Hopefully we will not be losing this as support. If we do drop below this, that could be a negative sign, I'll be honest. And you have the 0.786 here as support on the chart. So that's sitting at 0.01649 cents. But as you can see, overall, we're sitting in an uptrend. I apologize. I was sick for like 10 days or so, but now I should be finally back to 100%. But I remember people talking about Moonwell all the way back in 2023, and unfortunately, I did not buy into it. Look at that move from July 2023 into December 2024, 3,400%. That is amazing. That is an amazing move. So hopefully you took some profits. 526% right now from that bottom. So we'll see. Definitely a good price to be getting into. And historically speaking, this area has always ended up seeing a bounce. So every time we bounce off the white trend line, it's a pretty significant bounce. For example, this one here was approximately a 3x. This one here was 1,350%. And this one here was 1,000%. So the next one, potentially, if we're going to be adhering to this channel structure, if we do have a pump from here, it would probably be to the white trend line. That would be your all-time high, pretty much, for Moonwell. And then if we start losing the white trend line, I would be targeting the support here. I'd be targeting that bottom, the August 2024 bottom. And the RSI is already down to its August 2024 low. So this could be a good area to dollar cost average. So the oscillator is doing good. The price action is sitting at a massive support level here. So it's not the worst scenario. A lot of altcoins are doing much worse than this. So hopefully Moonwell will recover. Look at Parallel AI. It's just dumping back down to its lows from October 2024. Another coin you can look into is Destra. Desync. This is back to its October 2024 lows. Definitely a good time to be dollar cost averaging. PYR. Let's take a look at that. Is this taking a massive dip? Seems like it is, yeah. So this is listed on Binance and Coinbase. By the way, Binance announced you'll be able to, or voters will be able to decide which coins are to be listed, which I think is pretty cool. And I think they're going to do a bunch of AI coin votes. And I think Destra is going to be on that list. And I think that's actually how Destra is going to be listed. Okay, so this is the weekly chart for PYR. And I have to say it's not a very good look. I have to be brutally honest. Okay, so we set up a fib from the top here in March 2024 down to the bottom in October 2023. And this seemingly was our bear market bottom level, right? $2.73. We've retested that multiple times since June 2022. So then we had another one in November same year and another one in December same year. And then once again in October 2023. And from there we had like a 5x move to the upside or whatever it was. And since that top in March 2024, we've been in a massive downtrend. And that was, we're sitting at an 88% correction at the moment. So not a very good look for PYR. Our 1.618 here is going to be our technical target at $1.16. That's going to line up pretty much with this bottom from June 2021. So if you want to risk it, you can, of course, continue dollar cost averaging if you're super bullish on the project. You can even pick up some coins at the 1.618. But what's your average price, my friend, Michael? Hopefully it's around these prices here. And then we can probably add some sort of a trend line there once the bottom's in. And this could be a nice falling wedge reversal pattern here. So we just need this low to come into play and then we can solidify this pattern. Not good, $4. Yeah, $4 is not good, but it's not the worst. Yeah, you're down 66%. I mean, I have a lot of altcoins that are down 66%. So it is what it is. But hopefully you don't have a huge amount of money in that project. And then if you're still bullish on it, by all means, you can dollar cost average right now. Try to bring down that average as much as you can. But also when you're like deciding which projects to buy, try to look for the ones that have the highest probability to be very successful throughout 2025. So if you're looking at some AI coin and you're looking at some, let's say some random DeFi coin on Ethereum, chances are AI is going to be doing very well in 2025, better than random DeFi coins on Ethereum. So you might want to put your money into the AI sector rather than the Ethereum DeFi sector. That's just my opinion, but that's like the logic that I would try to apply. But anyway, let's wait for this low to be in, and then we could potentially be looking at some sort of a breakout from this falling wedge pattern. And then the 1.618 there at $1.20 to $1.15 should be our bottom. That's our 1.618 target to the downside. And if we start dropping below that, then it's a free fall from there. I can't really tell you what we're going to be doing. You can set up the fibs, obviously. You can take a look at the fibs and see what prices we have, but it's not like there's no trading data before these lows, so it's uncharted territories. What caused today? I don't think there was anything specific this today. At least I don't think so. Let me see. I don't think there was any specific news. This is just coming off the tariffs. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was nothing. Like I didn't see, at least I didn't see anything massive in the news that would potentially crash the markets today. So they're just bleeding, and I think there was a huge number that got liquidated. I can't remember what it is. 120. Was it 120 billion dollars, or am I dreaming? But I'm telling you, this is giving me such a deja vu from May 2021. Oh, well, obviously the crypto summit, yeah, and the announcement of the SBR, but that wasn't today. So yeah, it's not that. Hello there, how are you doing, my friend? Nice to see you on a stream. Let's take a look at SUI. Actually, this is one of the layer ones that I probably get into. One of the safer ones. So we have a few levels we can target based on previous tops. So we can add this block here, and that's going to be a good area for us to dollar cost average in between $2.35 and $1.95. We can also add a Fibonacci retracement. We're going to use the candle closures, not the wicks. So you have the 0.382 here. You have the 0.5 at $1.75, and you have the golden ratio at $1.34. So it's possible we're going to go down to the golden ratio if this crash continues. So almost 75% correction, but hopefully not, because it's a higher cap altcoin. They're not as volatile as the mid caps and the low caps. So that's what I'm looking at. And this is a really good chart for SUI. The chart is really good. This is our wave 3 and our wave 4. If the wave 4 dumps below the wave 1 bottom or the wave 1 top, then it's an invalid Elliott wave, just like with Ethereum. If that candle closes below the wave 1 top, the Elliott wave structure has been invalidated. But this is what I would be looking at for SUI. What about Moon River? Let's take a look at that. Okay, so Moon River has started dropping below its support block, which I did not want to see, to be honest with you. Hopefully the candle closure will be somewhere in this range, because we have a support bounce here from December 2023. That was a really good area to accumulate. And if we take a look at the RSI, we're even below the, so let's see, so this is where we were back in December 2023. I'm trying to see if there are any divergences here with the RSI. Doesn't look like it. But if you were buying at, let's say, 20 bucks, 15 bucks, then now is a good time to dollar cost average a little bit into Moon River. My average is around $7, so I'm not too worried about the price action. And worst case scenario is you're coming back down to your bottom prices from September 2023. And I'm going to be wrapping up very soon, so let's see if we have any other requests. How's that near chart doing? Let's take a look at near. Okay, $2.55. Definitely a good time to be entering. So we're retesting the top from February 2023 and this local top from December 2023, and we have a bottom here from January 2024, all kind of aligning in the same range here. So we're going to be using this block from $2.92 down to $2.26 as a good area to dollar cost average. Lots of confluence in this block. And of course, let's say we are going into a bear market, then you would be continuing this, and then Bitcoin has the bearish cross on the weekly, and projects continue dumping. So if you're buying here and we are going into a bear market, then you have to understand you're buying into a sinking ship. But the thing is, I don't believe that we're going into a bear market just yet. So I think we still have at least 6 months left to take some profits off. But that's just me, right? I'm not telling you to. I previously had 2.26 as bottom. We should hold. Would that make sense? That depends on what you're using to determine the bottom. But I think you're using the April 2023 top and the December 2023 local bottom, right? There's confluence in that area, so that's pretty much where the bottom of my block is. So I would say around $2.20 to 30 cents is where we should bottom out for Near Protocol. And then the RSI. Actually, let's see if there's anything here on the RSI that we can spot. Yeah, nothing much on the RSI at the moment. But we are approaching the oversold. If we enter the oversold, that's going to be a very good price that we haven't had in a while. So keep an eye on the oversold. If we drop below the index of 30, the line, we actually have never been oversold on this chart for Near Protocol. So that is impressive. The lowest point for us was the December 2022 bottom. That was this bottom here. And then we had a bullish divergence there, and from there we started pumping. So I'm still bullish on Near Protocol. We're up from our bottom. We're not breaking our massive lows here, our bear market lows. So it's not as bad as some of the other altcoins. And this is one of my top holdings, Near Protocol. Asia hasn't woken up yet. Yeah, that's true. Azik, are you able to show us near best price to DC? Yeah, so the best price to DCA, obviously, it depends on what your average is. So if your average is around $1, mine is around $1.40, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue dollar cost averaging at these prices. And if your average is at around 67, then you should really be dollar cost averaging right now. You should be buying as much near as you can and bringing down that average as much as possible. I would also recommend staking near, because their unstaking period is only 2 days. So Near Protocol is the only project that I have left staking. Everything else I've unstaked because of the 2 days unstaking. And Cardano is something that you can be staking as well, but I sold my Cardano. So Cardano, Near, those coins you can be staking because it's very easy to unstake and essentially get out of the project when the time comes. But Near Protocol is looking pretty good. I still think this has the chance to break past the all-time high in this cycle. And with the correction that we're seeing right now, it looks like we're getting prolonged, or at least my expectations are getting extended here for the cycle top, because I was expecting Bitcoin to finish up in the first half of 2025 with some altcoins continuing to pump throughout the rest of 2025. Maybe that still has a chance of playing out. We'll see. But by the looks of things, we're not going to be recovering anytime in March, to be honest. But things change in a heartbeat in crypto. Like, I've seen it happen so many times. The sentiment is very bearish, and then out of nowhere we start pumping, and just like with the elections, everything turns around on its head and we enter a massive uptrend. So it just depends on the news, and depends on if the big boys want to start pumping the prices. But that should be it for this live stream, guys. I want to thank you all for joining. Make sure to, like I said, leave a like. Make sure to check out our Patreon. The link is down below in the description. We have a 7-day free trial, and you can get access to all of our 1,000 posts there, including exclusive podcasts, series, trade alerts, our low cap gems. We have more than 100 videos on low caps, different low caps that we've been entering. So make sure to check that out. Like I said, it's free, and Bitcoin is back below $83,000. So yeah, hopefully this thing will figure itself out very soon, and we can. So one thing to notice just quickly before we end is that we have this massive wick on the weekly, and it's possible we're going to be filling this wick. So this candle is going to come down as low as that wick is, and we're going to close there, and that will be our bottom. That should be around the 55 EMA as well at that point after a while, because this could take a few weeks to play out. And again, this is unprecedented times. Usually March, February are very bullish months, but so far it's been bearish. But that should be it. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great day.